Here we are in our very... look, it's just not called a speed run anymore. I think we're just going to call this cheaters run, slug run. I don't know what it is, but basically I'm a Grandmaster. I'm going to play some 10-minute games, and my idea is to tell you how you should improve around this rating bracket, 1933, and typical mistakes that players play. The players that I'm going to face in their rating bracket. So what you should avoid, what you should do, and hope they don't cheat. Because oh my god, I'm getting so sick of it. But let's hope he's not a cheater, and he's got the centre of the board. And I'm going to play the Black Lion, which is one of the most dangerous openings about. It's really, really sharp stuff. And the Black Line starts with this strategy where you stop that pawn coming forwards, and next move I'm going to put my pawn on that square. So you have a bit of a stake in the centre of the board with a pawn covering some squares. And a lot of people say, oh, this is just the Philidor. Well, the difference is it's not really the Philidor. Mainly e5 earlier is a more Philidor move, but had my opponent not played this but played the other main line, then I would have continued with some ideas like this later on. But in this position, theory now continues. I have to take the centre because otherwise I'm going to get crushed. You have to not avoid moving your pieces around too much at the start. So I'm going to put my pawn in this square, controlling some key squares there. Okay, I have to take that back. There's no choice. And my opponent's got to decide what to do now. Now, pawn takes pawn is the best move when he will exchange queens, but I have a nice knight in the middle. This move, I would assume, already puts him in quite a tricky situation because his dart squares are now very weak, and you've always got to look at the change of pawn structures and see how that benefits both you and your opponent. And this doesn't really help him too much unless later on he can use the pawn majority over there. But if you look at his pawns are light squares, so naturally his dart squares are very weak. So my bishop can either come here or here, and I'm just trying to think which one I prefer to try and hit those dart squares. I'm pretty sure my opponent's not a cheat now. Praise the Lord! And where should we move that bishop? I quite like the idea of putting it here because I create the threat of taking there. And this puts some immediate threats on the board. And generally, if you've got a choice of playing a good move or a move that creates a threat that's also a good move, well, you might as well create the threat. And the threat is just knight takes pawn. This would have been a very nice diagonal with castling, and he can never easily castle then because he's castling to check. But this has some hidden ideas, because if he now defends the pawn, let's say with this, I may be able to, let's say, take the knight at some point and play knight takes here, bishop takes, and then go over here, check, and if g3, take there with the queen. So this is a common trick. And by the way, if your tactics are not fantastic, one thing I kind of realised actually is that tactics, it's just patterns at the end of the day. And if you haven't seen the pattern before, you might not see the tactic. And a lot of it comes down to experience. Trying to do a couple of tactics a day, learning different patterns, because then you'll recognise them quicker. So it's not that you're stupid, which I thought about myself many times. Probably still do a bit. But it's that you don't recognise the patterns, maybe. Okay, now my opponent has played a good move. So my trick didn't really work. And I'm just going to castle, because I can't see anything immediate. So I'm going to get my king safe. I was thinking about knight there, but I didn't want his bishop coming here, pinning my knight, when he's threatening maybe to take there, and I can't take back with a knight. So I'm leaving my knight here, so I have the option of taking on that square if I need be. And what other things am I thinking of doing now? Well, I'm thinking that I want to maybe open it up, because his king is in the middle. It's going to take him 2 moves to castle. So this one is one way I might better get some open lines. My queen coming out, challenge his centre, open up the position. This move is still quite tempting, but I need something good after bishop here, because something like knight here, bring the bishop here looks good. But knight here, bishop here, I don't see a good response. So I'm going to open it up. We're going to play c6 because my queen now has some ways in, and that's advantageous for a couple of reasons. But the other reason is that if he does try to pin my knight, it's not pinned. Okay, well I think we have to. Well, I mean, knight c5 might be playable. We don't need to do anything crazy at the moment. So let's just take that. And next move, I think I'm going to move my queen, and then I'll be much happier moving my knight. Now, if I move my queen here, he can go bishop here, and then I've got like bishop here. And trying to keep him from castling. Now, I could, yeah. So queen here, bishop here though, bishop here, and if he takes, I take with the knight. Looks good, but queen here, bishop here, knight here, and then if I go check, his other knight comes here, and is his knight on a4, knight on the rim? Is it bad or is it okay? I think I'm doing okay there, aren't I? Because I can take, and I have like knight g4. So I think queen b6 now looks like the right move to play, because queen a5 doesn't do anything because his knight's back in there, and he does want to castle. And if he castles, I think his position is, well, I mean, it's probably okay at the moment. But let's try to make life as tricky as we can for our opponents. Our opponents? I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not playing more than one opponent, unless they're all crap. Then it's all right. I'm not saying my opponent's crap, by the way. I'm just saying, like, you know, like one opponent's enough. And let's continue with this idea. Now, obviously, if he castles queenside, I say, obviously, it might not be obvious. I'm going to feel pretty okay because I have this open B file, and I can just whack on. I can whack some heavy artillery on that file and come straight towards his king. That will be the plan. And if he takes here, I'll probably take my knight now. But I think this is key, knight a4. But I will check. Then he has to probably move the knight here. I take there, he takes. And then I don't know. It's quite an intriguing position, isn't it? That one. So I want to go knight g4, but does it achieve anything after queen g3? And this is where, honestly, my vision starts to get a bit hazy in quicker time limits. So I don't, you know, even though I'm a grandmaster, I don't. It takes me a lot longer to calculate long lines ahead. It's a skill you need to train, but visualization long lines is really what's key to chess. Calculating. It's as simple as that. If you know, you have to know what to calculate, because it's like, you know, there's no point, you know, working out if it's a good idea to buy I don't know, like a barrel of mud, you know, and spending ages. Can I afford to buy a barrel of mud that's on sale down the mud shop? You know, unless you're going to use it to build a mud house, then it's okay. But if you want to, like, use that mud for something else, what am I talking about? Then it's not good. It's not good to do that. But if you want to buy like a barrel of bricks to buy a house, actually mud houses are really popular. But do you get what I'm talking about? Because I think I'm just going to move on before I start gibbering anymore. Okay, well, I think this is now makes my life a bit easier, because my knight now gets a good square. If he castles, I have a discovered check, so I can move my knight. So he can't castle. If he tries to go queen here or here, so he can castle and cover this diagonal, then my knight comes here. So now he's got to play this move to stop my knight coming here, and maybe move his queen next move as well, which is a lot of things to do, isn't it? So grabbing a pawn here is not outrageous. I mean, there's other moves I'm thinking of. Bishop a6 is not outrageous. Taking here is not outrageous. Maybe should we take here, because I didn't need to do that straight away, but it just simplifies things, because I think I can get away with grabbing a pawn, and I want to see what he's going to take with, because if he takes with a queen, then my bishop gains a very useful tempo. So he has taken with the queen, but now I'm going to play this move a la tempo, because I develop a piece and my bishop becomes what looks like quite strong here, attacking along the diagonal. And it's just a nice bishop, isn't it, really? And when he moves his queen, I can maybe take two pawns there, but I don't even want to rush taking this one, because he will castle. And I might as well wait until he does something about his castling problems before I grab that one. So I'm going to play a move which is very logical. I'm going to move my rook to the open file. That can only help my position. He might try to hold on to this pawn now, but I mean, probably the computer will say queen takes pawn is the best move, the way I should play. But I'm very unmaterialistic, and I prefer to increase the pressure. Now, this rook can't do much at the moment, but I'm sure it has potential. And my knight's not great, so I'm always thinking also ways to improve my pieces. My bishop, queen, rook doing well, but my knight's not good. I'd love to move my knight here, because then it has chances to come into a number of good squares. So I can now move it to this square. If I go this way, he might castle queenside because I break the rook. And even though I said that's nothing to worry about, I'm trying to get more out of the position now. So I was thinking here, here, here. But actually there's another route, isn't there? What if I go here and I try to come around this way? So all I'm doing is improving all of my pieces because I have time to do so. And again, grabbing the pawn, probably the best move when I can grab another pawn. But I'm kind of just improving my bits because my knight hadn't got any squares it could go to that were any worth moving forwards on this square. So, but from here I can see there's a hole there. So maybe at some point my knight can come in there, an outpost. There is a hole here, maybe it could come into here. So my opponent's playing very sensibly, moving his king around here. Now, I am going to use this developed rook now. I'm going to come straight in. And you can see how my pieces, which are on good squares, even though they won't do anything immediately, they're now picking up their pace. And my knight can still do this journey. Okay, so I can now start doing this. But I'm not going to be materialistic at all in this game. I'm going to move my knight. And I'm going to keep heading this way. Probably should have taken the pawn again. But I've not taken it yet, so I'm not going to rush to take it now. And this now is a very strong threat. If the knight comes there, it will win a piece. So my opponent tried to exchange queens. Now, exchanging queens is all right. I think I might have to grab this pawn now, guys, because it's not just materialistic, but my queen is going to activate along this weakened second rank. So let's do that, because I can take this pawn and even come here. I'm not worried about this pawn dropping, because I have bishop takes knight for a start. So this is now definitely the time to take this pawn on b2 in this position. And knight e6 is another way where I can just coordinate all the guys. Okay, so I'm going to grab another pawn. I don't see any reason why not. We'll increase the pressure here. But I have this safe square on d3 for my queen. If I hadn't seen the d3 square for my queen, I may not have grabbed this pawn. You've got to be very careful when you grab pawns like that. Okay, but now it's looking quite fantastic, because I can take this one with either the rook going for the attack or with the bishop. Or I could be very sadistic and play knight here, but that's a little bit too sadistic. I mean, all chess players are sadistic to a certain point, I feel, but we've got to act against our urges sometimes in life. And this one looks best. Okay, he might get his piece back, but my rook and queen are just now going to be opened. I've got 3 pieces. Look at his king. His king has nothing around it. No bodyguards, no clothes. It's getting cold. Poor little king there. So we're just ripping open the defense. Okay, so now rook and queen on the second rank, often going to be checkmate. But it's even better here because my knight can now come in. Now, do we try to force checkmate straight away? Here? Or do we go rook here? King here? Looking for the checkmate now, guys. This check, king here. And we can move the knight in with this. Okay, I like this. So I'm going to move the queen because it adds a little bit of pressure here. And I'm going to move the knight because now my idea is g5, king h5, queen takes h3, checkmate. And I really want this knight to be the hero, and it is going to be the hero. So, I don't know, I'm looking for beautiful checkmates, but this is pretty nice. We force his king further up the board. And now, well, I'd love the knight to be a real hero, but we shouldn't turn down the checkmate in one move, should we? Okay, so that was, you know, a better game. And if we look at what went wrong there, well, first of all, my opponent after e5 made his next decision quite quickly, and it looks kind of logical to push forwards in the middle, but I doubt that this is a good move at all, and I don't think it's a good move at all. And maybe now my next move's not best. Maybe in hindsight I should just come here because it ends up going there straight away, but he picks a bad formation. You've got to be very careful where you put your pawns, and we just play quite normal moves now. But where my opponent went wrong next, I think he's playing okay up to this point, is here. He really had to have a think about how to get his king safe. Bishop e3 is fine, but now I think he had to try this move because taking the bishop doesn't actually help his king, and it improves my pieces a little bit. This idea h3 to stop here is fine. Maybe I'm a little bit premature taking this one, but again, that's another mistake because I get another tempo. You've got to respect timing in chess. My opponent's not respecting timing enough. This is a common error, I suppose, around this grade boundary, that you don't realize how much danger there is in a position. But when your king's in the middle, you can't be walking into developing moves that give your opponent tempo. It's far too dangerous. You need to do bad things to your pawn structure. So I can see why he wouldn't want to play this move, because his pawn structure is a bit bad, it's backwards, but he had to do it because the way he did it, I get this tempo. And now I just improve my pieces, and this is another move which I think is a mistake because it doesn't help his position at all. This is too slow. Again, not really looking for tempo. I think he had to try to swap some pieces off, like something like this, or maybe b3, not b4. Okay, so now I played this slow maneuver, but it was quite an attractive maneuver. My pieces come in. I think it's too late now already. So really, my opponent's mistakes were in the opening, maybe rushing. He tries to relieve the tension a bit too soon. You'll notice that top players, they try to keep the tension. So knight f3 is the main theoretical move, which is keeping the tension. Taking here is okay, but only if you've got a definite idea in mind. For example, now, if he took here and took the queens off, this is main line, I have a nice knight, he has an isolated pawn, but he's misplaced my king, so he has a clear idea in mind. What was his idea behind playing d5? If you can't explain to yourself some purpose, some positive positional or tactical reason why you're doing something, you probably shouldn't be doing it. I'm not sure what the idea of that is. And then later on, he was losing a bit too much time, wasn't he? We've already seen that. Okay, great that he wasn't cheating though. So make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks, guys. And, you know, it's just nice not to play cheat. Back again soon. But all likes and subscribes, very nice. Come on, bring him, bring him, bring him.